After working with dozens of clients, I've slowly refined my process each time in order to make the process run more smoothly and more efficiently. I'm going to go over to the computer so I can break down the complete process visually and to give you an idea of what happens when the client first gets in touch with you all the way to when you send the deliverables or you submit the geofilter for them. So here's the complete process for working with Geofilter clients from start to finish. First, you should receive an email request with all the answers to the questions on your questionnaire. Once you've reviewed the request and decided that it's something you want to take on, you can go ahead and provide a quote for how much the project is going to be. However, in many cases, if the client doesn't seem like a good fit or the project doesn't seem viable, you can go ahead and politely decline the offer and then go ahead and refer them to someone else. Now, if they say no to the quote, then you can go ahead and move on as well. However, if they say yes, you can go ahead and send an invoice to them of that quote. Now, on the other hand, if there happens to be anything that has changed in between the time you provided the quote and then they said yes, you can reassess whether you still want to work with them or you still have the availability to. If you decide that you're not going to be able to help them, then you can go ahead and turn down and refer them now before you take on their money and have given them a commitment to their project. And with the invoice you send, you want to collect at least 50% or more of the payment. I usually require 100% of the payment up front to get things going. Now, if they don't happen to pay, you can go ahead and follow up with them to see whether they saw the invoice or if there's anything that you can help them with. Now, if they do end up following up and paying the invoice, then that's great. You can move on to the project. However, if they don't follow up with the payment or they're asking you to do work without payment, it's best to just end the project there because you don't want to be involved with doing a lot of work up front because there's a chance that they can just move on and you have done all that work for nothing. So after you receive the 50% or more payment, you go ahead and reiterate the process and the timeline it's going to take for the project. Next is to do the work that is required to create the geofilter, and you can use the answers to the questionnaire form throughout this process to better inform your design decisions and to achieve the goals of their project. Now, after you're done doing the work, go ahead and send an invoice for the final payment if you didn't already collect 100% up front, and then you can send over the deliverables. Again, it's important to receive final payment before you send the deliverables because they can always go ahead and just take the design that you send them and use it themselves. So you want to make sure that you get 100% of the payment before they get that final look or that final file that they can go ahead and submit. Now, after they receive the deliverable files and take a look at the geofilter design, they may have a few suggestions for some changes, and if they're small enough and within the scope of the project that was originally discussed, then you can go ahead and accommodate those changes. However, if they're requesting changes that are completely outside of the scope of the project or completely different from what they submitted in their questionnaire, you can have the option to process a change order, which is essentially going to add to the project any new features that they're requesting or even create a whole new project itself. And they will be charged separately for that because it's not something that was originally discussed. And this is going to help prevent scope creep, which essentially gives them more features than what they paid for. So if they agree to the change order, you can go ahead and receive that payment and then go ahead and accommodate those changes. After you accommodate those changes, you can then send over the new deliverable files, and from there they can go ahead and submit the geofilter, or from there you can go ahead and submit it yourself. And what I like to do before submitting it is check the location on Google Earth. And the reason for this is because the address alone is probably not going to be enough to get an idea of where the location is, especially if you're not from that area. And what I like to do is type in that address into Google Earth, and you're able to see the geography of it because you get a satellite view of it. So you can get a better idea of where the actual venue or the location is by seeing it visually, because on Snapchat the map on there is actually just going to be of roads, streets, and buildings, and sometimes that's just not enough information to put the geofence in the right area. So once you have a better idea of where to place the geofence, you can go ahead and submit the geofilter for them under your account, and then go ahead and forward all those emails that you receive from Snapchat over to them so they can double check and confirm the correct times and locations for the geofilter. Now, I would also do this for all the following confirmation emails, such as getting the Geofilter accepted, because then from there it should be a finished project and they can go ahead and use the Geofilter. So there you have it. There's the client work process for working with Geofilter clients in a nutshell.